When you're listening to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, this song is a story about triumph, about being different, about not really fitting in, and then using your difference to make a bigger difference. You know what I'm saying? Like really contributing to the group. And Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is the most. It might be the most inspiring. One of you could really make a case that it's a story about truly overcoming adversity, you know what I mean? Overcoming and just really helping out the team, you know what I mean? And Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is quite possibly the top, the most positive, anti-bullying Christmas song out there. You know what I'm saying? Like Frosty the Snowman doesn't have that kind of vibe. You know what I mean? Jingle Bells doesn't have that kind of vibe. This one is about one Rudolph, one red-nosed reindeer that was mimicked, that was bullied, that was hated by all the other reindeers. They wouldn't let him join in any games. It's really a song about discrimination. It's really a song about, people excluding you. But in the end, Rudolph uses his red nose, you know what I mean, to light the way during a very foggy Christmas Eve for Santa. And then as they fly through the night, he's like guiding everybody. He's like, yo, check this out. And he's able to lead everybody in the direction that they want, you know what I mean? And obviously, I think a red nose flashlight, you know what I mean, isn't exactly what we would call, I've never used a red flashlight for anything. I mean, I guess light in general would be a big help, you know what I'm saying? But let's just say, for the sake of discussion, it was able to light up everything. It was able to work in a very flashy, and it just lit up the whole way, you know what I'm saying? Let's just say, I mean, you realize the acceptance that comes with, with being positive, with being a leader, you know what I mean? The positives that come when you're given the opportunity. And that's what this song is really about, is that when given the opportunity and you take that opportunity and you succeed, that's where the acceptance comes from. And, just because you didn't get acceptance, like in the beginning, like Rudolph, that's the thing about this song, is Rudolph holds no grudges. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and then Rudolph realized that all of them were fake and that he was gonna get them, stab them all in the back. You know what I mean? There's no revenge for Rudolph. There's just triumph. There's just finally acceptance, and then finally realizing that, hey, I have something special that I was able to add to the team. There's no bitterness. Well, I'm sure the other reindeer could finally whoopee, you know what I mean? They could finally accept Rudolph, but that just goes to show that man, I think we wouldn't have been stressing so much or worried so much if we had just accepted Rudolph at the beginning, you know what I'm saying? If we had just accepted Rudolph right at the beginning, in the beginning of when he first arrived, instead of making fun of his red shiny nose that lit up, we wouldn't have worried. It just would have naturally all came to us that Rudolph should be at the head of the thing. It wasn't until Santa came along and looked at Rudolph and said, hey, Rudolph, with your red, shiny, flashing light, you know what I mean, nose, would you guide my sled tonight? And Rudolph is like, okay, and that's all you need, really, is you just need that one person to give you the opportunity to believe in you, you know what I'm saying? And then you succeed, and then you really take charge, And so Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is an inspiring story about overcoming discrimination, overcoming bullying, overcoming all the negativity surrounding yourself. And then in the end, you succeed. You know what I mean? And then in the end, you're like, yes, finally people are recognizing my greatness. You know what I mean? Finally, somebody notices that I was really I was really meant to be a part of this all the time. You know what I mean? And it's really about like, you know, you have to understand your worth. You have to understand it. You know what I'm saying? So that way, when moments like that come and those opportunities strike you, you can take them with so much confidence because you know what you're worth. You know what I mean? And you can't say that about. I mean, I feel like you really can't say that about like. What's another Christmas song that's like that? I mean, there's obviously other inspiring Christmas songs, other like really nice Christmas songs, but this one, man, everybody can like picture themselves as Rudolph. In this one, everybody can kind of say, "I've been Rudolph," and then in the end, you're kind of just like, "But finally," you know what I mean? I was accepted, and I was like, "Yay!" You know, whippy. You know, everybody was cheering for me, and it's such a relatable song. It's such a good song, and the fact that they were able to tie in the Christmas themes into it, and then they were able to give like the supportive Santa Claus figure, which could be interpreted as God. You know what I mean? As Jesus himself. You know what I'm saying? And that as long as God believes in you and loves you and gives you like all of that, you know what I mean? As long as he provides you that confidence, then you're able to kind of say to yourself like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, wow, 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 wow. You know what I'm saying? Like you're able to kind of say to yourself like, wow, you know, this wasn't a, you know, I have his support. You know what I mean? And that gives you the confidence to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? And now you're leading the way, and now you're at the front of the sled. You know what I mean? You're leading the other reindeer, and then finally you can guide and help everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So, in the end, when you're listening to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, if you're not pulling any inspiration from the song, if you don't feel the lyrics, if you don't feel the music, you know what I mean? You're never really gonna connect with the holiday spirit. You're never really gonna understand how that song is applicable to anybody. And then finally you can stand up and say to yourself, you know what? Those other reindeers were complete, you know, they were such, I mean, could I don't want to be like those other reindeer. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be like them. I want it to be very inclusive. I want to be very much like I want to be a bunch of Rudolphs, you know what I mean? Where we're all accepting and loving of each other. You know what I'm saying? So, in the end, long story short, you know what I mean? Long song short, when you're listening to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, picture yourself as Rudolph. And then picture yourself as the other reindeers. You honestly can't think about, you know, you could think about yourself as like, I'm not as inclusive. I don't care about other people. Or maybe there's somebody you dislike and you're kind of just like, man, now I'm acting like, you know, Cupid and Comet and Donner and Blitzen. You know what I mean? I'm acting like all of those guys when I really want to be Rudolph. Why can't I, you know, accept this other person? You know what I'm saying? Good people, you know what I mean? Or people that you don't know, whatnot. Anyways, all of that is to say that when you're listening to the song, feel the inspiration, feel the inclusivity, the diversity, you know what I'm saying? And how it applies to you, it applies to your friends, it applies to everybody, you know what I mean? Anyways, that song is just, it's really, really good. It's has a deep meaning behind it. And I think it's one of the most underrated Christmas songs. And I love it. So you should definitely go listen to it and put yourself in Rudolph's shoes. Put yourself in the other reindeer's shoes, and then put yourself in Santa's shoes. You know what I'm saying? Think about like how you can be that person that believes in somebody. How you can be that one person that just gives someone the inspiration. You know what I mean? To lead, to be the front man, to be anything. You know what I'm saying? That support is all somebody needs to like become Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you know? So think about that and enjoy the song. Yeah, Merry Christmas and all that. So thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.